Sanam, this is Satpadikar, and this is my Dharma talk for today, and I'm still trying to find the right place to put this little machine in my new digs, so excuse me. But today we're talking about who's afraid of the dark. I promoted this yesterday with the leading question, Guru, what if it meant both dark and light? And so many paths, including Sikh Dharma, has this notion of chardikla, ever uplifting, always going for the positive. And so this notion of wanting to be positive and wanting to move to the light is shared among so many different traditions, and rightly so. We want to be happy, we want to be filled with joy, we want to be beings of light. All of these things are natural. But they are also natural because we have such an aversion to the dark. We're afraid of the dark. It's primordial. And in that sense, human beings have always lived in communities because of that fear of the dark, right? But the advantage or the reality of today's human self-sensory self is that we have an opportunity to not just be beings of light. What if the Guru is both dark and light? Not the movement from darkness to light, as we often translate it. But a friend and mentor of mine, Prabhunam, Sanatkamara's mother, in fact, talked about once, what if the Guru were both darkness and light? And I really love that idea because I've often talked about how the Guru is our life. There's no teacher outside of ourselves. It's just life is happening. And we're the meaning makers, of course. But part of adding meaning to our experience is not trying to escape it. The spiritual bypass of always looking for something that's positive, always striving for the light, the more, the this, the that, being better, right? And that being better becomes its own kind of addiction, its own kind of mania. And instead, what if we rested and took a deep breath into the grief and the sadness and the moments of darkness in our life? Because they're just as much the teacher as the striving for the light is, that desire for better. And in fact, some of the darkest times in my life have been my greatest teachers. And I, as much as I might be loath to go back to them, they've created who I am today. And even today, in the smallest things, there's always agitation. There's always an ego response to life of it's not going my way. Even when things are great, there's always that little bit. And so if we look at Guru as light and dark together, this boat that carries our life forward, this reality of life on life's terms, this is the nature of Guru, the nature of life. Life as the teacher. And so who's afraid of the dark? Well, of course we all are. We're all uncomfortable with our shadow. But the more we get in touch with the shadow parts of ourselves, with the shadow parts of our lives, and quit trying to fix them, quit trying to machinate things into something that's good, right? The definition of a yogi, as described by Yogi Bhajan, is one who sees beyond good and bad, who lives beyond the polarity. And so there is this magic nature of the triangle, this power that is the Guru is both. And our capacity to be neutral above that good and bad, the play of Leela, is what makes us yogis, is what makes us self-sensory beings who understand there's more than this material world, and this material world is our greatest teacher. It's why we incarnated, to learn from this physical form. And so it's interesting that in the fact that we've chosen this life, we reject 50% of it. Right? We don't want anything to do with it. We're afraid of it. We're afraid of the dark. But instead, take a deep breath and rest in those shadow spaces. Become like water. Seek the dark. Seek the shallow. Seek the deep places within yourself. Because those are the places where you really nourish your creativity. You nourish that part of your soul that just wants to be itself, that doesn't want to be better, that wants to be accepted as is. And that work is soul work. That work expands and allows us to understand that everything as is within God, is within the nature of goodness. Satnam.